Hello everyone and welcome to Autocrat. This is episode 108, Triplets fighting... Triplets!
Wow.
We have a new king!
We do. And this one is a lot more like the belligerent Romulus than the peaceful Numa. Oh boy! I guess we'll find out if Rome manages to stay out of foreign conflicts, huh?
Well, we already know it didn't.
Ah, yes. In fact, we're now at war with Alba Longa.
Let's see how this goes!
Woo! So, Cassius Dio says that Tullus Hostilius felt brave because of the reputation of both Rome and Romulus. However, Alba Longa was the first party to get troops ready. They invaded Roman territory and dug themselves in, making a trench less than 5 miles from Rome itself. This region would be called Clulius's Trench, after their king Gaius Clulius, for centuries after. The name will eventually become obsolete when the dug structure erodes away, don't worry about it. Are you a fan of Gaius Clulius?
Don't know him.
Good. It doesn't matter anymore because he's dead now.
Oh, alright.
Clulius died while the fortified position was being made.
I see.
He was found dead in his tent one morning. So, yeah, goodbye Clulius.
Okay.
Some say the gods killed him for starting a war with Rome, some say he was poisoned by a rival faction, and still others say he took his life in despair at how complicated and bogged down everything was becoming. Nobody really knows. The Albans elected a man called Mettius Fufetius, and yes, I thought you were going to like that. I was going to call him Mettius, but should I call him Fufetius throughout the entire rest of the episode?
Call him Foof.
Foof. Good. They elect Foof to be dictator. I guess, that answers my question from a few episodes ago about the relation of Clulius to Romulus. I guess he isn't a relation, and the Albans have just sort of become an elective monarchy, like the Romans. But then again, Foof is a dictator, not a king. It's complicated.
Right.
We get the impression he was acclaimed by the army rather than the people. So this is very much the soldiers looking at the people going, aren't you going to enjoy this new person in power? Yes, sir.
Now, the news of Clulius' death was music to Tullus' ears, and he celebrated it as the beginning of the vengeance of the gods upon the city. He declared that Clulius was the first victim, but soon everyone in Alba would feel the punishment of the gods. That threat being made, he waited until night fell and then snuck into Alban land with his army. This prompted King Mettius to react.
Ah yes, or Dictator Foof.
He left the trench and headed straight for the Roman forces. He sent a diplomat ahead to ask Tullus for a discussion before a potential fight. Tullus accepted, but set his soldiers up in battle formation in case the talks went south, instead of, north.
It's an English expression.
The Albans did the same,
yeah.
I know. Tullus and Foof walked about in between the armies with a few officers. Foof spoke first.
Anyone who's just tuning in is going to be very confused that this is the tone we go for on this show.
He recalled Clulius telling him about the fight being about stolen cattle.
Oh yeah, the reason we're doing this in the first place.
However, the Romans and the Albans had a close family bond. Accordingly, this fight wasn't really about cattle. It was about power and ambition.
Right.
Now, Mettius, or, Foof, pointed out that they had a common enemy. The Etruscans were on the rise and were a threat to both powers. In fact, the Romans knew them well as they were closer to them.
And as do we, because I hijacked an episode that one time.
Yes, I do remember that. What sense did it make to both lose a bunch of men in this conflict and then be vulnerable to the Etruscans?
Yeah.
Can't we, settle this in some other way with, less bloodshed?
Would be nice.
Now, Tullus was warlike and liked fighting. But he wasn't invulnerable to this argument.
Even if you're a warlike king, you can be in favour of not getting annihilated by the Etruscans a few years from now.
So, it was decided that there would be a contest of champions fighting on behalf of the armies. Whichever side won, the other would be subjugated by the victor.
It's like Troy, or rather, it's like we tried to do at Troy 15 times and it never worked.
Now, that's where the episode's title became relevant.
Okay.
Because there were a set of triplets fighting in each army.
Whoa. I'm pretending to act surprised.
Good.
Whoa. So unexpected.
You're gonna tell us about them anyway.
Yes. The Roman ones are most often called the Horatii, so they're from the Horatius family, while the Alban ones are called the Curiatii. So these sets of triplets were approached and they agreed to fight. A formal agreement was made between the two armies, but I won't go into the level of detail that Livy does about this process. What I will say is that Tullus and, well, Foof swear an oath which is dished out by a priest called Valerius. This is apparently the first time that the Valerian family show up in Roman history, as they will do for the next 6 centuries. We may or may not come back to them, is what I'm saying. The Horatii apparently have a rivalry with this same Valerii family on occasion. Now, I will give the account that Dionysius does, because it allows for a bit of a tangent. Dionysius of Halicarnassus, or John, I think you keep calling him.
Let's call him Steve today.
Oh, today he's Steve, sorry. Steve says that Foof suggested the combat between the triplets. A big deal is made of how incredible it is that they're triplets born on the same day. The logic of them being brothers is also they're least likely out of any group paired together to abandon their fellow fighters if things don't go well. You know, that is your brother, you're not going to abandon him.
Yeah, like if it goes south.
Yes, if it goes east is what I'm saying. And, by the way, the triplets are actually maternal cousins, with their mothers being sisters. Seems like some interesting genetics going on there, and that's where I go into a mini triplet tangent. Now, the tendency towards multiple births is maternally inherited, at least, so this might actually have at least some basis in scientific theory. I'm not going to go into loads of detail, but basically there's something called Helen's law, which some people think determines how likely it is that twins will be born. It's not really accurate, but the main consensus I found is just, it kind of works.
Alright.
So 1 in 89 births on average are twins, in this logic, and then triplets will be 1 in 89 times 89 births.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And this scales like that for quadruplets, quintuplets, etc. Obviously this is naturally occurring, multiple births. We can't really account for IVF in this ratio. Anyway, mini tangent over. Tullus Hostilius was at first worried that the family ties between the 6 of them would make it unlikely they'd want to fight, but Foof reassured him it won't be a problem. He'd already checked with the Curiatii and they're up for it. So Hostilius held a 10-day truce while the father, Mr. Horatius, or Horace, sounded out the Horatii brothers. Given the title of the episode, like you said, Triplets Fighting Triplets, I'm sure you can see how this went.
Yes, I can.
Their father was proud of their combative answer and sent them to the king to give the good news. Anyway, the fight.
The Horatii and the Curiatii approached in the middle of both armies. The fight began. The Alban Curie immediately had the upper hand, killing 2 of the Romans' triplets. So, well, that's 2 of them already gone.
Yep, 3 against 1 now.
Yep.
We get a bit of a contradiction of this, by the way, with Dionysius of Halicarnassus. Sorry, Steve.
What does Steve say?
Steve says that during the fight, which the armies are watching, the eldest Alban brother stabs one of his cousins in the groin with his sword.
Here all the male audience going, ouch.
Oh! This was a blow which apparently finished him off.
I mean, fair.
A second Roman, enraged, kills this eldest Alban brother, so it's now 1-1 in his version. Another Alban and the final Roman brother then grapple, the Alban dying by getting stabbed in the gut, while the Roman gets hit in the thigh and manages to limp away, so now 2 of each side are dead. I'm going to say the second Roman brother has just been killed. It contradicts a bit with Livy's version of events, as 1 Alban's already dead, not 3 against 1. Whether it's 2-1 or 3-1, you get the general idea.
Now, Victor might have a solution.
Ooh, he might.
Whoever that is.
Sextus Aurelius Victor. We've mentioned him on and off, but he doesn't really have a lot to contribute, apart from now, apparently.
Well, he might have a solution, whoever he is. He says that in the first instance, 2 Romans died and the 3 Alban brothers were injured.
Right.
So maybe that's a way of reconciling Steve and Livy. Maybe the eldest Alban was just injured rather than dying.
Okay, fine. We'll go with that.
Now, Horatius knew he could not fight against all 3 men combined. However, he might be able to take them on one by one. So he turned and ran, hoping to separate them from each other and fight them one by one that way.
Sure.
He accordingly leapt on the first one and killed him, with the sound of Alban onlookers begging his brothers to rescue him.
Sure. Those brothers really wishing they'd kept up with their cardio so they could actually, keep pace with the first one.
Yeah. The second one also died to his hand. The fight ended with the third man exhausted and prone at Horatius' feet. Horatius declared he was avenging his brothers and then killed him with a downward sword stroke.
Bam!
The Roman army erupted into cheers!
Woo!
The dead were buried and Alba Longa was now, as per the agreement, a subject of Rome.
Sure.
Apparently, the place where the 5 dead men was buried could be seen in Livy's day, the 2 sides separated a little way from each other and each side a bit closer to their respective towns.
It's kind of nice in a way. So, Foof, asked Tullus what his orders were for Alba Longa. It was decided that the Alban troops would remain active in case the Etruscan city of Veii and Rome ever fought. So Alba Longa's their vassal now, it makes sense that they need to provide troops. So, with that done, the Romans returned to the city. Horatius marched in at the front of the army carrying his prizes. I assume he's looted all 3 of the bodies. Well, this was an unwelcome sight for one person in Rome, just one. Zoom past the cheering crowds in your mind now, and zoom in on Horatius' young sister, who we're going to call Horatio because of Roman conventions.
Sure, why not?
As Horatius marched into Rome, through the Capena gate, his younger sister spotted her fiancé's cloak slung over her brother's shoulder, and immediately worked out what had happened. Yeah, she was betrothed to one of the Alba Longan triplets.
She also had made that cloak for him, I'll have you know.
Yeah. In Cassius Dio, the sister is not mentioned as a betrothed of the enemy brother, just as his cousin, but then again, both of them are true, or can be. Horatia was horrified and burst into tears, going wild with grief. She shouted her dead betrothed's name. Now, Horatius had a reaction, let's say. He was outraged. His sister was daring to grieve during his triumphal moment just because he killed her betrothed. What a wimp. He was so overcome with fury that he drew his sword and ran her through. I'm going to quote what he said here. Quote, "Take your girl's love and give it to your lover in hell. What is Rome to such as you, or your brothers living or dead? So perish all Roman women who mourn for an enemy."
I think he's missing the point.
He really is. Steve, or Dionysus of Halicarnassus, says the murder was ordained by the gods so he didn't get too big for his boots. Basically, they're punishing him. I'm going to give the account Dionysus does, as it gives us a bit more insight into this than Livy.
Alright.
We also get a quote which gives us some insight into the Roman mind when he sees his sister among the crowd of civilians running to meet him. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Quote, "At the first sight of her, he was distressed that a virgin ripe for marriage should have deserted her household tasks at her mother's side and joined a crowd of strangers." End quote.
Alright.
He gave her the benefit of the doubt, though, you'll be pleased to know, thinking she was rushing to meet him in a fit of, quote, "feminine weakness," end quote, to greet her now only brother.
Alright.
However, she was in fact grieving for the man she'd been betrothed to, and by the way, her father had arranged all of that.
I can't make down the 1,000 motives there.
Yeah, like, go and kill your cousins, but also I'm going to betroth your sister to one of them. Now, Latin custom says that husbands-to-be wear embroidered robes when they fetch their wives from their houses to go and marry them. Well, like we said, she'd made her fiancé such a robe, and it was this robe that her brother was now carrying as the blood-stained spoils of battle.
Ouch.
Ouch. She ripped her clothes, beat her breast, and bewailed her brother for killing her beloved. Her brother raged at her disloyalty and said that, since she mourned for a dead man, she should go and join him. That way she could not bring dishonour to her father or brothers anymore, so again, he killed her. Rome was horrified. You'll be actually kind of relieved to know.
I am.
Horatius, the brother, may have been a war hero, but he wasn't immune from that kind of thing. So he was hauled in front of King Tullus to be tried. Tullus Hostilius was not really that happy about the situation. He knew what the verdict would be for such a crime. Yes?
Death.
Death. Obviously it's death. It's Rome. However, he knew that killing the war hero Horatius would not be popular. So he delegated this to a special class of official he appointed called the Duumvirs. So let's hand the problem off, shall we? Yeah. These Duumvirs were tasked with trying Horatius. He was found guilty of treason and sentenced to death. A lictor was told to tie his arms, but at this point Tullus Hostilius intervened. So much for not interfering with justice and all that. Tullus didn't really want things to get that far and urged Horatius to appeal his sentence, which he did. The Roman people were allowed to decide the appeal as to whether he would live or die. In the end, one thing swung it. And you're really not going to like this thing. Horatius' own dad, let's say Horatius Senior, gave a witness statement that his daughter had deserved to die.
Why?
The daughter that, I will remind you, he had betrothed to the man that his own son had then killed, starting all this. If she hadn't died, the dad said, he would have punished his son, in fact. Horatius Senior then launched an appeal to the people to remember that most of his children were now dead and begged them not to rob him of another one. After all, the trophies he had won were installed somewhere which is now known as the Horatian Spears. Did the Romans really have it in them to kill this brave man, to beat, humiliate and torture him? Even the Albans would have balked at this.
Basically, he dared them to do their worst.
Yeah, this appeal worked.
Ah, right.
Horatius was not killed. Instead, the dad would perform ceremonies which would expunge the crime, and this ceremony became a bit of a tradition in the Horatii. Once this was done, a bit of wood was draped across the road. Horatius, the brother, not the dad, was forced to walk under it and duck his head, shaming him. This is a big deal, by the way, to Romans. This was also a mark used as a sign of submission in other contexts, so it's basically a shaming ritual. This bit of wood was apparently still there in the time of the historian Livy in the 1st century, and the wood would be swapped out from time to time at public cost. It's called the Sister's Beam, after the dead Horatia. Now, what of Horatia herself, or rather, her corpse, you might be thinking? Well, her father thought his daughter's death was a just and glorious deed and didn't permit his daughter to be buried in the family tomb. Instead, she was left where she died, passers-by eventually burying her with stones and dirt. Livy says that a stone tomb stands where she died. Horatius, along with other Romans, held a banquet, holding his private calamities to be less important than the public glory. The dad is coming off brilliantly this episode, isn't he?
He really is.
I really came to hate that dad. In terms of our narrative, the historian Appian doesn't give us much here as we only have fragments. However, he does say there were those who were annoyed at Hostilius because he was risking everything in the war on the victory of 3 men, so all the way back at the start. The fragment says they blamed him, but without the surrounding text I'm not sure if I can say whether that's in context or not, as the Triplets did end up winning. So, that's the end of this episode. Do you feel happy now? Do you feel like we had a good time?
I mean, no.
No.
We had a good time talking, but
yeah,
they didn't have a good time.
Yeah, we started the We Hate Horatius Society.
Join.
Yeah, everybody join. Don't do that to your kids, please. That should go without saying, but don't do that to your kids.
Well, on that note, I'll wish you all a happy week and see you next time.
Yeah, until next time, have a great week, everyone.